It is a trash truck Christmas morning, and this is our 31-week pregnancy update.
Well, the moment you felt you could start over new was the same that you realized the stories were true. You opened your eyes and the world you could see wasn't dim, it was brighter. You'd have to agree. Oh, now your fears are gone. They were buried with the dawn. And oh, now you feel alive for the very first time. Oh, now your fears are gone. They were buried with the dawn. And oh, now you feel alive for the first time. Not hold me yet. Not hold me yet. No, you're not home yet. No, not home. But you finally found the way.
Anyway. Hi. This morning we had some breakfast of yogurt. He also had mini muffins. He didn't really eat much of his yogurt. We'll see if he continues to. And then he has milk and he wanted some lemonade, so we got him a little bit of lemonade in his straw cup. And I had yogurt with granola. It's like a probiotic yogurt, which is like all yogurt has probiotic in it because that's like what makes yogurt yogurt is the yeast, or not yeast cultures, probiotic cultures, whatever they are, that grows in the yogurt, which sounds really funny, but it's really good for you actually. So I don't know if this has like an additional probiotic added to it. I didn't look into it much. It was just on the shelf and it was strawberry, and I was like, sounds good to me. I could use some probiotic, and I just want strawberry yogurt to go with my granola that has protein in it. And then this morning, I started taking my iron supplement, which is a capsule, so I opened it up, dumped it on my spoon. It was way too much for one spoonful. And it didn't taste like really horrible, but it kind of tastes like what it smells like when you boil a bone. But it didn't taste as bad as the beef broth gelatin when I've tasted that by itself and just ugh. So I did it in like 2 spoonfuls and then ate the rest of it, and it was fine. I'm interested to see what it tastes like if I try to add it to my smoothie. I don't think it would taste bad, so we might do that. But I was going to do my smoothie separately today. It is almost 9 o'clock. I have a chiropractic appointment at 10, but I needed to get this video done because it was supposed to go out on Monday, and by the time that I get done with everything I'm doing at night and then get into my like bedroom or somewhere to film, my husband's like, okay, it's bedtime now. And it has been a long weekend, so I don't blame him, but so it's been put off, unfortunately. And he's always like, oh yeah, you can do your video, but I'm just like, I would rather not talk for 30 minutes and then you be snoring in the background and then have to wake you up and go to bed, and I just feel guilty. But also, I haven't seen you all week. I didn't see you all weekend, and I haven't seen you during the week, so I just want to like cuddle. Baby is the size of a head of broccoli or bok choy. They gave me both comparisons, which I thought was weird because I don't normally get 2. But we've started this new thing on like Saturday or Sunday. It was like Saturday night or Sunday morning or something like that, where it feels like my ovaries are being, or not my ovaries, it feels like the baby is reaching all the way into my cervix and just grabbing and twisting. And I very distinctly remember Gabriel doing something similar, but it felt like it was my ovaries, not my cervix. This feels like my cervix, and I'm like, excuse me? While at the same time pushing on the like upper part, like up into my lungs. So that has been fun. Last week, I found out I am like 99.8% positive that I passed my glucose test. So yay, like with really good numbers. So I'm gonna blame the cold brew that I had apparently way too close. And the next time that I get pregnant, I will be doing my glucose test in the morning and calling it a day. Because I don't ever want to do that again. It was at work on Wednesday. At work on Wednesday last week, I was talking to a coworker of mine, and she was like, I was telling her about my glucose test, and she was like, are the needles, like, are there that many? Like, because I really don't like needles, but I want to have kids someday. And I was like, honestly, I was super worried about it as a teen. Like, it was a thought that constantly crossed my mind, which is why I had to look into alternatives for birth practices and birthing professionals and everything like that. And I was like, and what I've come to find is that, if you want the epidural, it's going to be a needle regardless, but if you're in that much pain and that's your plan and you're not, like, preparing yourself for a natural birth, it won't, like, be the end of the world. Like, that kind of needle, it could be worse, if that makes sense. Because I think it's one of those things that when you're in X amount of pain, everyone reaches their threshold to which they can basically overcome their fears because you're at this pain threshold. It's like using pain in interrogation to get somebody to break, right? You reach your pain threshold where you just can't hold out anymore. It's the same kind of idea, or your exhaustion level in labor. So I was like, as far as like that goes, if that's something that you're wanting exclusively for childbirth, like, by that point, if you prepare yourself for an epidural birth, you'll not only will you have success, but it won't be as bad as you think. Like, it could be bad, but in like exchange for what it's supposed to be doing for you, if you have a really good provider and you're well prepared for it and you know how the epidural works, and so you're able to make like informed choices, then you'll probably have a lot of success. I would foresee there being a lot of success and it not being that bad in terms of needles. As far as during pregnancy, it depends what form of care you go with. Basically, there's like 2 required blood draw times, and honestly, you can deny as much of it or as little of it as you want, because we have that ability to do that in the healthcare system. Whether or not policy agrees with that, you may not be able to continue to go to that doctor anymore, but you do have the ability to deny a blood draw. However, the 2 important ones are the CBC panel at the beginning of your pregnancy and the CBC panel in your second trimester, right around the time that you do your glucose test, as those are the ones that like midwives very frequently offer. They offer other things as needed, obviously. So like at 37 weeks with Gabriel, I got my blood taken to check for liver enzymes, I want to say is what it was. Basically to see if I was, because I had like preeclampsia, high blood pressure symptoms, but not, like, besides the swelling and the high blood pressure itself, it wasn't too far to risk me out of care. And they were like, well, maybe you got something going on where we can like give you something for it. Like, maybe there's a medication that you could be put on, or we could make a change in whatever, or we'll notice like a really high liver enzymes, I want to say is what it was, count. I could be wrong on that one. And then we'll induce you sooner. But before that result could come back, I ended up like starting kind of like early labor, and then my body didn't switch over, and then my blood pressure was too high, and they were like, no, we're just going to induce you for safety reasons, whatever. Anyway, so in my last pregnancy, I got my blood taken 3 separate times. And that was it. Like 3 needle stabs. And each time, like the last time it was 1 or 2 vials of blood. But like the first time was at my midwife's office in Texas. And I think she took 4 or 5 vials. Because we did like a thyroid test, the complete CBC panel. And I think I did an STD test, because I had never had like a blood version of it before or whatever. And when you work in a restaurant, you accidentally cut your finger open on a dirty knife, you really want to make sure you're not dying, because people at restaurants are so gross. I think I did that as well, but I don't remember. It was too long ago. And then when I came back to Minnesota, the next blood draw that I did, because I got my labs released to my new midwife, was at 28 weeks, and it was the glucose test and a complete CBC panel to compare. And then I want to say she took 2 vials when she did the 37-week one so that she could do like a partial CBC, essentially, just to look at like my blood count and everything like that, or my white blood cell count and my hemoglobin. I want to say were the 2 important ones that she was looking at as far as like bleeding, excessive bleeding danger, like where I was in a dangerous zone for that because of my high blood pressure. Like we didn't want a combination of that to cause like me to bleed out or anything like that. And I had been taking alfalfa powder, which is like high in vitamin K, which is a clotting, helps you to bleed less vitamin, among other things. But that is one thing that it's really works really well for and is really well known for. And I had been taking that for a couple of weeks off and on. So it actually was really, really, really helped me. So I'm really glad that I did that. And as long as, you know, it gets approved, totally take an alfalfa powder or like vitamin K supplement that, because not only did I stop bleeding at 4 weeks postpartum, which some people will do kind of on their own, but it helps to, you know, get everything out sooner and just like whoosh. But also after birth, it was not nearly as much as they had expected. It was fairly like a clean delivery, not as much bleeding, which surprised all of us. I think we kind of expected a lot more. So it was a good thing, and with my blood pressure, it was a really good thing, and yeah. But anyway, my point is, so I kind of was just like telling her, you know, you just have to be able to assess. And up until this, like, my blood vessel popping in my first blood draw this pregnancy, and then the 3-4 blood needle pokes that I had to do for my glucose test, it really hasn't been horrible. I don't like it, but it hasn't been horrible, and I would easily do it again. So we were talking about it, and in the end I was like, you know, this is probably like a lot of information to absorb. But basically, there are a few that are really, really smart blood draws for you to do. But, you know, talking to your provider, explaining your holdbacks, and then just saying, you know, when we do have to do a blood draw, can we try and do a lot of it together? Can you give me tools to help me prepare for this? Things that I can do to make it easier on myself. And then you kind of have to figure yourself out, you know? Like, I realized I cannot watch. I can't look. I have to, as far away as possible, and I have to, you know, deep breaths. If I poke into my hand, that also really helps for me, because my brain really, really overreacts about it, because it's just like the level of fear is to the point of irrational that I have to do things to mitigate that fear, because it's not as bad as it, you know, it's not like it's the worst thing in the world, but in my brain, because of the fear that I have, the irrational level of that fear, it feels like it. You know, so there are things that I have to do to make it better for me, but it's a big fear. So if I can do it, you just need to prepare yourself and do your best. And maybe you can't do it, maybe you can't, but you know, if it's sacrifices, what do we want in exchange for what we have to sacrifice? Last week was also, Wednesday was also my first day back at work, and we were so slow. And honestly, as far as like my foot goes, I was totally fine. But man, my body was exhausted, and like my mind was exhausted. And like I think I had like 1 breadstick because I still didn't know the outcome of my glucose results, and I was like, I probably shouldn't even be eating this, but like I need something, and it's just too difficult for me to try and like pack food. So I'm kind of thinking, you know, if 1 meal a week or 1 snack, because it's not like a full meal that I ever eat, but if 1 snack a week ends up being pizza, or 2 a week if I'm working 2 days during the week, I don't think that's going to compromise my health, now that I know I don't have pretty sure I don't have the gestational diabetes. But we're constantly moving in there, have not slowed down like at all, and we've started doing that whole like stretching of the uterus thing and grabbing feeling. I don't know what it actually is, but that's the best thing that I can explain it feeling like, because holy crap. And we've started doing that, so we've added more motion, in my opinion. There's a little less like rolling around, because obviously baby's getting bigger and there's a little less space, but it still happens frequently, to the point where people, like, in public, like last night, we were at a sushi restaurant for dinner, and I got fried rice. It was very tasty. I have to work again tonight, so I'm hoping that it feels fine on my foot again, and I'm feeling pain. It's more just like body, baby related pain. I do have the chiropractor. We gotta leave in like 40 minutes. That's what it is. Yesterday, my sister and I went to like 3 different places. We went grocery shopping. We went to go pick up costumes. I needed to go to Walmart to get something outside of the groceries that I was getting. And I was just like, exhausted. But I gotta go to the chiropractor this morning, and then I'm going to Coburn's to get coffee and a couple of grocery items that I couldn't find, and then chocolate milk. The Babymoon. I know that we've been, at least theoretically, I described to you guys exactly like what the plan was, and it went pretty much according to plan. So what ended up happening is most of us were running late, which feels about accurate. We were all running a little bit late, and it was like rain, snowing when we arrived. But we arrived at the nail place in my hometown. Like, we all just met locally to get our nails done. I did dip nails, not acrylics or like gel. It was just like dip powder, which I've never done before. We did that, but apparently they were like one person short, so I didn't even start until like everyone else was done. And then I was like, there's like a coffee shop right across like the parking lot. Why don't you guys go get coffee, my treat, like then we'll come back this way and like figure out a plan. And there was a couple of things a couple of people were gonna do like on our way out. So once I was finally done, because it took way longer than I anticipated, it was like an hour and a half. I only expected it to be an hour. So my nails didn't take an hour and a half. They took like an hour. Maybe even 45 minutes. But the other half an hour to 45 minutes were me sitting there waiting. It was fine. I got to catch up with people, which was nice, but it was just like, it doesn't bode well for my timeline. And I had a gal meeting us from up north, so I was like, we're going to be late. But then, you know, we hopped in the car. We had to come back here to grab a couple of things that I forgot. Not too big of a deal. Grabbed those things. Didn't end up using one of them, but the rest I did end up using. So it was worth it to come back, or 2 of them. And because we loaded firewood into the car, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then we left. We were on our way. It was great. We got to the dinner spot. It was about 45 minutes after the time that I anticipated us arriving when I had initially made the plan. But I also realized that the restaurant that we went to was farther away than the cabin, like, place that we stayed. And then, so we went to dinner. It was really great. We all met there, had a really nice dinner, and then we, like, drove back to the cabin place, which was, like, 20 minutes away. I missed a turn. It was really dramatic. And then when we finally got in the front door, because the directions that I was emailed were a little bit different than, like, what we encountered, if that makes sense. So, like, the lockbox was said explicitly in the email. The lockbox will be on the door handle. Door knob. It was a handle, not a knob, and there was no lockbox. I thought it was talking about the keypad, but it didn't unlock with the keypad. So then I'm like, there's got to be a lockbox around here somewhere, right? Otherwise, we're totally at the wrong house trying to break in. And then find the lockbox. It's on a chair. And I am like, I put in what I thought was the right code, and I'm like, it's not opening. Like, what's going on? Realized the 6 that I had was an 8 because I couldn't see in the dark at 9:30 at night. Really poor decision on my part. But even if we had just gone straight there, it still would have been dark, so it doesn't matter. Stupid winter. Whatever. And we got in. It was really nice. The place was really nice. We unloaded all the stuff, except the firewood. And then, like, food, did put the groceries in the fridge, all that kind of jazz, and then got in our swimsuits and hopped in the hot tub, which was cooler than cooler temperature-wise than we anticipated. But that was our own fault for leaving the cover off for, like, 5 minutes while we unpacked everything. Well, it was more than that. But still, but it was really nice to sit in. It was, like, windy and, like, 40 degrees out, but it was fine. And it was fine and nice to have the hot tub out in, like, the cooler air. But walking back inside was a pain. And, you know, I had to take the boot off. So I had shoes just to make sure that I didn't slip and fall. But Oh, it took a lot longer to get the shoes on, so it was really cool. But then we came in, we all like showered off, calmed down for the night, played a game, and went to bed. Very chill, very low-key. Went to coffee the next morning, had a really good time, walked downtown, had lunch, which was really also a good time, and then went to this pumpkin festival, which was really ended up being a lot more fun than I anticipated it being. I thought it was like going to be exclusively for kids, but everyone found something to do, and there was like free hot chocolate and all this stuff. It was really a good time. So we drove to the 20 minutes back to the cabin, hung out. One of my friends had to leave, so, you know, we said goodbye to her, played a few games, made some dinner, went back in the hot tub, very chill. Then we got into, like, a conversation that lasted until literally 3 a.m. So we woke up the next morning, and I had this whole intention to make, like, a nicer breakfast, and I was like, there just isn't enough time for me to bake bacon and then wash all the dishes that we need to wash because the dishwasher wasn't working. And so I let the landlord know as soon as he found out, and I was like, I'm really sorry, like, I don't know what's up, but we're trying to wash these dishes, and it won't turn on. And we're thinking, like, maybe it's just not plugged in or something, but, like, we don't know what to do because it says that we need to do that. And so I was like, we can wash whatever's not loaded in, like hand wash it. And he's like, okay, that works. Like, the guy was really nice about it. But I was just, like, really worried because I was like, we didn't intentionally try to not do this. It just wouldn't turn on. And I don't know why. Like, we can't get it to turn on. When we did finally go to bed and get up, I was like, I just don't have time to do this, but you guys can, like, make whatever you want. And I started packing some stuff, had some breakfast. We loaded up pretty quick, and then we were all able to head home. It was really fun and very relaxed. Gregory had a crazy time, but there were a few people that had, like, epiphanous moments on this trip, and, like, it was just really funny because one of my friends started officially dating this guy. Because she's like, yeah, I harassed him until he answered me because I'm terrible and impatient. And I love her because that was just such a her move. I totally would have done, like, I've done the same thing. She's like, no, I ruined it. And I was like, hey, my husband will always tell the story about how I ruined his first I love you. So sometimes men just need the push. So it was very relaxing. Would recommend. Put together a video and put it on TikTok if you wanted to check that out. It's actually going to go up on my Instagram probably today too, so if you want to see that. Guys, let's see what the belly looks like this week as I'm getting kicked in the ribcage.
Dogs are icky. Oh yeah, it's like, well, first of all, it's not a frog, it's a toad. See, he has bumpy skin and smaller legs. Dogs have smooth skin.
Alright, that is the conclusion of my 31-week update and my Babymoon recap. Again, go check out my Instagram if you want to see a video of what we did and everything like that, because it was pretty much a good time. We also did horse rides. Great. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here and being patient with me. We will see you next time.
Love, Genevieve.